My charisma sucks. It does. Here I am on a video and my charisma absolutely and utterly sucks. It's not doing you any favors whatsoever watching this. But then again, if you want to learn the psychological tricks to command respect, it's worth watching till the end. Because what I'm going to lay out here is, well, first of all, I'm going to answer my own question of how and why I can actually improve my charisma and see and make sure that it doesn't actually suck. But I'm going to look at firstly the bad things with regard to charismatic leadership and the tricks, the psychological tricks that come with commanding respect. Then I'm going to look at the good things. So firstly the bad, and then we'll go towards the good. And I'm going to do that by looking at 4 particular studies. Very briefly, however, the first study will be the dark side of charismatic leadership. Ooh, the dark side. The second study will be dark leadership, the triad of leaders, dark triad personality traits. Yes, there are actual dark triad of personality traits. Again, not so good. That will lead on then to people forget he's human. Yes, people are actually human and we don't realize they are, leaders that, are so charismatic that they're actually human. So people forget he's human, charismatic leadership in institutional religion. Yes, religion. Am I a priest? No, I'm not. But still, we need to look at the power that is within religion and that type of leadership, because there could be tricks going on right there. So as we go into it now, let's look at that first study, which is, of course, the dark side of charismatic leadership. Here they found that essentially charisma has no particular definition. Imagine that for a second. There's this wonderful word that is so powerful, that is controlling so many different aspects of people's lives, because there's a charismatic leader, and yet there's no particular definition of this. There's powerful things in the world like leadership itself, and we know what the definition of leadership is. A throwaway quick few words on leadership would be that leadership is, it is being ahead of people who need your guidance. That's a very simple, basic definition that I've come up with, just like that. But charisma doesn't have that definition. It has this intangibility. So it's very difficult to explain. It's very difficult to actually communicate with other people. So if people ask you, what is your leader like? What is your boss like? You kind of might actually have a difficult way of explaining it, because essentially you don't know. You can't put your finger on that button that is leadership. It's very difficult to know what something is if you don't know how to explain it. So there's no definition as such. They also found that the allure makes people follow them. So imagine being very alluring. We talk about sex, for example, and bedroom talk. People try to allure people to their bedroom. They do kind of charming things, and this kind of relationship with charisma and then interrelationship with leadership of the likes of alluring people and having that natural ability to allure people can be quite, not exactly sexual, but can be quite, welcoming in a very charming way, shall we say. So this is how this natural charisma begins to flow within people's dialogue about other people, about leaders and so on. It also has this, charismatic leadership has this kind of magnetism which attracts attention, they say. So magnetic kind of fields as we know it within, I suppose, the larger field of the hard sciences will look at how the opposites attract, how the power of magnets, and if you ever put 2 magnets together and seen how they can just stick together, this magnetic field, if you think about it from a charismatic point of view, this can really attract people. And if you're a leader, you can actually, like that magnet, just pull people towards you, that magnetic vibe that you give off. If you're, of course, a follower, you're going to be pulled, and you just don't even know why you're being pulled in the first place. But the funny thing that they found also was that charisma can actually, believe it or not, be trained. Now, if you think about that for a second, then we wonder about trust and charismatic leadership, because we really don't know if a person wants to be the leader, is the leader, but doesn't have that charismatic vibe. Then suddenly, if they get trained of different techniques, different ways of being charismatic, well then surely they're going to attract people, allure people, and then build that common bond, that trust as such. But if it's all trained, I mean, is that really going to be a solid, trusting basis for you to trust them as a leader, for you to actually feel, well, I want to follow this person in the long term? So this is the darkness that we're looking at. This is the tricks that we're looking at as such. So charisma can also lead people astray. Here's the thing. We spoke about alluring people. We spoke about an indefinable characteristic, this characteristic of charisma. It's just intangible, and how it can use magnetism to pull people together. But when there's no definition, when you don't know what it is, but you're being pulled there, it can lead people astray. So equally, it can be good if there's other aspects of leadership, and we'll get to that in a while, but also it can push people away. The second study looked at the dark leadership and the role of essentially leaders, dark triad personality type traits. And here it looked at, I suppose, leadership being romantic. Now, if we think of, say, Robin Hood, but he was such a romantic figure. And we looked at him and we thought, you know what, isn't he cool? He's really cool. He's robbing from the rich to give to the poor. I mean, that's kind of moral, right? So if it is, then that's really a good thing. And yeah, you could say that. But it's romanticized. It's him in nature. It's him, strong, muscular, athletic type guy, rough and ready, if you will. And then he has this romantic notions towards the maid Marian, who essentially is, I suppose, above his league. It's a totally different aristocratic league that she's in. But he is the guy that's amongst the people. He gives kind of control, delegates things to his side wingman, Little John. And Little John, who's the big strong guy and has all these skills, he can actually still seek a leader. So there's that charismatic twist to that, and that's the romance that this type of leader can, I suppose, bring. And they can bring it, but they can also lead a person astray, as I said before. They also noticed that there's good forms of leadership coming from this particular aspect or trait, which is charisma, but it's currently in a triad of characteristics that are not really good. And the triad that they refer to mainly are narcissism, Machiavellianism, and, well, psychosis. Now, if you think of narcissism, it is not a good trait to have. Who wants to magically follow somebody unknowingly so? That is narcissistic. Someone that's obsessed in their own right with themselves and with themselves. So why would we really want to follow that if we were consciously choosing a leader? But yet, there's that darkness, that triad. And that leads into the second point, which is this, well, Machiavellian type manipulation of their leadership. Using people, manipulating them, tricking them, looking at their traits and trying to, twist them around for the advantage of the leader. And then psychosis. I mean, psychosis, where can you get started with psychosis? I mean, it's not good, is it? If somebody's psychotic and they're leading, that means it's possible that they're going to train others to be, well, just as psychotic, to be out there to do harm. That's the bad things. Let's look at the good things now. Finally, we are where we are. We're in a good spell. Because charisma is not all bad. Charisma can be great. And if we look at the study by, well, it's called People Forget He's Human, Charismatic Leadership in Institutional Religions, it looks at, I suppose, well, it does look at the bad stuff first, but it's leading on to the good stuff. It says that you can allow followers to see human sides. Now, here's where you can use it in a good way, but also in a bad way. Look at Bill Clinton. Look at Bill Clinton with the time of Monica Lewinsky. Now, I don't need to get into that. I think you know what happened there. But if you didn't, well, you can Google it. Anyway, Clinton had this alluring personality, this charisma as such, and it was there and he used it. And he used it to his gain. But then again, People followed him because they saw this human side. Now I know that's not particularly perhaps a very moral thing to have done, but still I know people more or less loved him afterwards. They also noted that charisma can look at charismatic leaders, I suppose, that, well, are relatable. And again, that's similar to Clinton. And another thing Clinton actually did or said, it was something like, "I feel for you," in response to an interview when asked about particular hardships that a voter was experiencing. So when he was going for the president, he had this kind of ability to be able to not just command the room, but to be able to interrelate with the person within that huge sphere of public speaking. He could actually go down to the microcosm of a person's problem and connect with the person. There's that charismatic glue as such that he had. And lastly, they looked at authenticity and trustworthiness. Now, we touched on trustworthiness earlier on, and how being trustworthy obviously is going to be a really important thing, a really important trait as a leader. But if you have that charisma, we need to be able to cross over, rather than using it in a bad way, but to use it in a good way, because there's going to be that glue of trust there as well. So now let's look at the good things. We've looked at the bad things, we've looked at how the bad things can, well, they can be used in a very bad way, but they can also be used in a kind of medium sense. But being aware of all those bad things, this is being aware, and this is the first good thing, this is being aware of how your followers are potentially looking at your charisma as being a bad thing. So being able to turn that around now is by having confidence. Now, confidence is a huge thing, we know that. But confidence in order to carry out and undo really all the things that you just heard, all the bad or the try to bad things, the psychosis, the Machiavellian tendencies, the likes of all these different things that can drag a person down. So remember how the person is receiving you when you're being charismatic in your leadership. And when I say receiving, I'm talking too about using your communication skills. Now, leaders that have this charismatic type, they have excellent and even extraordinary communication skills. So it's really important to be able to use your excellent communication skills. If you think about this particular video, this is a video. This is all it is, but it's communicating as well. It's communicating about leadership and about traits of leadership and all of that. But it's also looking at how, as I said at the very start, I have really bad charisma, that it sucked. But I'm trying to improve. I'm trying to excel at my communication towards you through a video. But you can also communicate again through the likes of paper and the written word. You can also communicate in other ways, vocally, verbally, through a recording as such. So there's different ways of communicating. Of course, the live in front of a person recording that we all so many miss in times of the likes of COVID-19. But it's them aspects, those excellent aspects of communication that are really prominent in a really, really good leader. These traits of charisma can be brought forward with this. So is maturity, believe it or not. Being mature and showing that you can be mature as a leader shows the charisma is growing. It's there and it's alive. And this magnetism, imagine, with a cocktail of maturity with it, well, I think you would might indeed drink that cocktail because it's nice. And this maturity is going to bring the cocktail to you, charisma, speaking, and you'll be a better leader. You have that natural vibe, that trick, that ability to be able to, well, drink it down, but also improve upon yourself and mature and show that maturity to others. And improving upon yourself is another good trait of a charismatic leader, because they want to continually self-improve. And if it's negative, if you see a charismatic leader who can allure a person in, but they're not actually wanting to improve, this can become egotistical. So always seek out to try and improve, and also seek out a leader who is willing to improve. And not only improve, but be courageous. Now, it's easy talk. I spoke about excellent communication skills. It's really easy making a video like this. Being able to stand up for what you believe in, to be actionable, to stand up in front of people, look down on them in a kind of physical way from your podium, from your stance as leadership, then you are going to be able to show that you're out there and you're using your courageous ways to stand up for what you believe in for other people, because essentially you are the leader. You're showing charisma, but you have to take and make hard decisions too. You have to be original, or indeed you should be original, because being original as a leader can make you, well, really well followed and really well respected. And respect is what you're looking for, to give respect and to get respect. And if you can show me some respect by subscribing, I would be delighted. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do. If you have, thank you very much. Until next time, have a wonderful day.